Welcome, everyone, to the Mile High Champions League weekly podcast. I'm your host, The Commish, and with me, as always, is the benevolent and mirthful Big Nolski. How are you tonight, Noel?
I'm well. It's almost Friday, and again, it's been a long week, so bam! How are you?
I'm good, too. I am in the similar boat. Long day, long week, but who gives a fuck? We're talking fantasy football. All is good. Let's go into another piece of Mile High Champions League history. Josh is now 10 and 0, everyone. Thank you for the fanfare, Noel. Josh is now 10 and 0. We are in uncharted territory. We're going into something that I hadn't never even considered. I thought it was out of the realm of possibility just mathematically. We might have a perfect regular season on our hands if Josh can win the next 2 weeks. If he wins and he continues the streak, it might be the what is it, 07 Patriots, Noel. They went 18 and 1 or whatever it was. So we might have at least a regular season perfection. We'll maybe see about the playoffs. So congratulations.
Obviously, he doesn't want that perfect record only to lose in the final game. He wants it all.
He wants it all. He wants it all. I would imagine so. Yeah, because that sucks. Like, what's the point of even having a perfect season if you lose the fucking Super Bowl? So, anyways, let's congratulate Josh again for being not only having a 10-0 record, but the MVP of the week as well. He beat Noel. I'm sorry. He beat you 165.5 to 138.7, which is extra shitty when you consider, guess who had the MVP of the week, Noel?
Oh, I know. It's me.
It was me. That's right. It was you, Noel. I'm sorry. Cam Newton, 53.2 points.
That was surprising.
That was surprising, but you were very wise to pick him up. He was just floating around in free agency. You grabbed him, and he's been doing well, despite the fact he wasn't able to save your team this week. So, at any rate, I'm sorry about that, Noel. Move on to the playoff outlook. We're not going to do champion or shithead of the week this week. We're just going to look straight at the playoffs. Let's talk about the 5 categories: who's in, who's likely in, who's still in the hunt, who's likely out, and who's out. Who's in? Is Josh in, Noel? I don't know. Is he in?
It's going to be close, but I think yes, very yes.
I would say very yes too. And guess who else is in? Senior Matthew Kenfield of Guatemalan fame is now in with his 7-3 record. No matter what the HR Buffaloes, Rednecks, the Light, and the Titletown Warriors do, they can't catch up. Even if all of them win their last 2 games, Kenfield is far enough ahead in the Pacific Conference to have already clinched the Pacific Conference title. Same thing for Josh in the Atlantic. What's still up for grabs? Mountain Conference. Although it's only up for grabs between Courtney and myself, we both have 6-4 records. Parker Rams, Zoltan Spartans are both 3-7. So Josh and Kenfield are in. Who is likely in? Just mentioned it. Myself and Courtney, we both have 6-4 records. So we'd have to both lose our last 2 games, which is actually an impossibility because we play each other next week. So one of us will very likely be in. Who's still in the hunt? Nick, Ben, Vanessa, Charlie, and Molly. Vanessa, let's start at the 5 and 5s. Nick and Molly are 5 and 5. So one of them has a pretty good chance of making the playoffs. Vanessa, Charlie, and Ben are 4 and 6. So it's not out of the realm of possibility of them making the playoffs, so they have a little bit harder road to hoe to get there. And then finally, Brandon, Larson, and Noel are 3 and 7 and likely out. I'm sorry, Noel. I hate saying that while you're on the podcast here. I hate saying about anybody, even the Rams and Spartans, even though they're not on the podcast. I hate saying that because as much fun and as competitive as I am, I as administrator and commissioner of this league, I don't want anyone to feel badly. And maybe that's a little granola of me, but I like everyone to have fun. So it breaks my heart to say that you, Noel, Brandon, and Larson are likely out with 3 and 7 records. So again, it's not out of the realm of possibility for you, all 3 of you, to win your last 2 games, and some other weird combination of games happens where one of you makes the playoff. But that's a pretty long shot at this point. So I would likely say that you 3 are out. As of now, nobody is technically mathematically eliminated. Because of that scenario I just detailed for Brandon, Larson, and Noel, it is technically possible, although not probable, that one of them will make the playoffs. By the end of this week, I'm sure we'll have a mathematically eliminated person, and we'll have a much clearer picture of who the playoff is going to be, at least maybe the top 3 or 4 spots who might be fighting for the last 2. is still up for grabs in week 12, but we'll see. So that is the playoff outlook. Anything you wanted to add to that, Noel?
Nope. Congratulations to everybody who's likely in and still in the hunt. And not to play favorites or anything here, but I just want to say congratulations to Charlie, who was looking like he was off to probably be fighting off either myself and Brandon for last place in the league. And he's still in playoff contention, and he's just been hanging around even with Aaron Rodgers out. So big ups to Charlie for that, and obviously to Josh for that insane record, which hopefully keeps it going.
Big ups. Indeed. All right. Let's go on to the review now. Tackling the review first. Let's tackle the first game. Mine and Brandon's. Take it away, Noel.
So, as I told you before we started recording, I didn't really look at like any other games besides the outcome of mine, like because I'm selfish like that. But damn right. And when I first opened this up and this full box score I'm looking at, I'm like 116. Oh God, and Mike's playing Brandon. There's no way he won, but you did 116.1 to 111.4, and you did it in typical Mike consistent way. Josh McCown actually kind of had a relatively down game for him recently, with which he was even bad. 17.6 points. Jordan Howard, slow game, 10 points. Jarvis Landry, humdrum game, 15 points. Evan Ingram, good game again for your tight end, 15. Where this really got hurt was Melvin Gordon just had another off week, but that Jacksonville defensive front is goddamn legit. Chris Thompson not doing what he has done for you, but 17 points, nothing to shake a stick at. And then, as always, Will Lutz, 12 points, good. And as we said in the preview, you always start the defense that's playing against Cleveland. Even though the Lions let up 24 points, they still came away with 18.5 points for you off of one defensive touchdown, interception, fumble recovery, and 4 sacks. So that was another excellent start. And to Brandon, he was kind of less consistent, as you could say. Matt Ryan, again, he seems to do this where like it's every other year he's hot. So he's kind of on a down year. So 20.4 points, kind of his average this year. Adrian Peterson, same thing. He's just kind of hit or miss. He carried the ball 21 times for an astonishing 29 yards.
Oh
that
God.
is awful. Then DeAndre Hopkins is still not doing bad, but he's missing Deshaun Watson, which I think anyone who watches the Texans play is because Tom Savage sucks. Jimmy Graham, good output, 20 points. Jerick McKinnon, it's kind of like you guess who you start as far as the Minnesota backfield right now. So he got 9 points for Brandon Homson, 5 points. I would even say he's hit or miss. I think anymore, he's almost an afterthought in Atlanta. But Greg DeLeg, 17, and Jaguars defense, even though they're putting up a lot of sacks, they didn't get a single sack in that game. But 15 points doesn't shake a stick at. So even though this was kind of a close shootout, I think it was fairly good from both of you guys. But Mike, I'm sure you're very happy to get this win and keep your tie for first place in the Mountain Conference. And Brandon, I don't know what you did this season, but whatever you did, you need to stop doing it because the fantasy gods hate you now. So stop doing that. Whatever you're doing, just stop.
It's not working, Brennan. Just stop it.
Just stop it.
just stop it. Yeah, I know. It's so weird. It's so weird. No offense to Kenfield, but it's so weird to see Brandon down and Kenfield up. It's just weird. It's weird to me, at least. It's weird. So, at any rate, let's go on to the next game. Parker
I will defeat him.
Shouted down here that she will defeat him. So that's the preview section that was a preview of the preview section, and Courtney's passionate takedown of Kenfield.
Freaking meta.
I thought we were talking about Brandon.
Oh, she thought she was talking about Brandon. Either way, get out of Courtney's way. She's passionate and will murder your ass. So let's talk about that game. Except for this week, unfortunately, let's talk about that week. I thought, as she did, that she was going to win because Devonta Freeman actually did not end up playing and put up a nice juicy goose egg for the Rams here. Not a pretty sight. However, he was able to make up for that with Jared Goff scoring 39 points. I thought he might be the MVP of the week again, but not the case. He did well, 39. Adam Thielen really was what killed her. 32 points from him, 8 receptions, 166 yards and a touchdown. There were a couple other
by a Viking.
Yeah, I know. Of all the things to take down Courtney was a Viking.
I got screwed.
She just, if you didn't hear that, she said, I got screwed.
Screwed by a Viking.
Screwed by a sad poetic justice. So, looking at the rest of his team, 1 point from Hunter Henry, 5 points from the kicker. Kicker's 5 points not great, but it's acceptable. Hunter Henry, 1 point is unacceptable. Michael Thomas finally back in vogue, 22 points for him, pretty good week. Golden Taint, 22 points from him, very good week. That really did him well, obviously. So even with the goose egg and the 1 point from Hunter Henry and the 5 from Chris Boswell, still 131 points to her 109.9. Where Courtney unfortunately faltered this week, Russell Wilson had a good week at 26, but he's been averaging 32, so certainly not what you'd expect. Christian McCaffrey, great game, 22 points. That's pretty much in line. If in line is 18 average, so that's actually not in line. He's actually did 4 points better than his average. Stephon Diggs, 17 points. Gronk, 11. That's pretty low for Gronk in my book. Leonard Fournette played but did not have a good game. He only got 9 points, a far cry from his 24. Derrick Henry, 10. Vikings defense also screwed her over, 7.5 points. So she got betrayed by the Vikings D and Adam Thielen. And then Ryan Suckup, 7 points. It was just a rough week for her in general. This is very unlike Courtney's team. If you look at the way she's been playing through the first 10 weeks, she's been averaging, including this game, 140.9 points per week. So this 109, 40 points below her average. Not great. So tough loss for Courtney, but she's still number 1 in the Mountain Conference because even though we have this similar record, she has 1,409 points to my 1,261. So she is actually the second highest scoring team in the Mile High Champions League right now. So get the fuck out of her way. She will bowl you over and not even think twice. So, okay, let's go on to the next game. Noel, you and AJ Green Lantern, as we talked about in the beginning part of the podcast, this was Josh's week. And we kind of talked about that in last week's podcast. It was really Josh's week again. He looks nigh unstoppable at this point because with his team set up the way it is, the teams this year are utilizing the players that he has, which is Dak Prescott you can expect points from because he's the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, nothing special there. Mark Ingram, though, they are heavily relying on him, and New Orleans is having a banner year this year. In fact, there was a stat that if you lose your first game and then go on to win the next 6 or something like that, only 2 other teams have done that in the history of the NFL, and both of them went on to win the Super Bowl. So the Saints are a hot team right now. I'd get out of their way. AJ Green is doing very well this year. He's somewhat and can be feast or famine. This week was a feast, 27 points off of 5 receptions, 115 yards, and a touchdown. But the final one, Todd Gurley, the Rams, despite their pretty well-balanced offense, are utilizing him quite a bit. He is the number 1 running back so far this season, and it's just really kicking some ass. So his 25 points is very good. Actually, believe it or not, a little low for Todd Gurley. So overall, Josh had a very fantastic week. So 165 points. You're going to win 99 out of 100 times with that kind of score. It's just once you score over 150, you're in rare air, and it's hard to match that. Now, your score, Noel, 138.7 is typically a score good enough to beat most teams in the Mile High Champions League on any given week, barring some sort of high-scoring week like Josh had this week. So you certainly, it's one of those kind of moral victories.
Yay!
Because if you look at it, you were a hair away from getting the EB award. If Nick had not beaten Charlie by almost 100 points, you were the 3rd highest scoring team, losing to the number 1 team. So you would have beaten pretty much everyone else. In fact, literally everyone else except for Josh and Nick. So that's a tough week. So the fact that you're so jovial as you normally are, I give you kudos, good sir. Kudos to you. So let's look at your team. So what happened? Cam Newton, as we talked about, 53.2 points. Dude is on fire again. He's looking a lot more like the Cam Newton we were expecting him to. 4 touchdowns on 254 yards. No interceptions. No fumbles. Dude's on fire. Lamar Miller, 14 points. That is very un-Lamar Millery of him. I thought that was a bit low, and it was. Doug Baldwin, 14 points. About what you'd expect from Doug. Jack Doyle, Jackie D, only got you 2 points. A far cry from the 10.3 he's been averaging. So if he had performed up to his standards, would have been a closer game. Joey Mixon, 14 points. That's a little bit better than you can expect from him. Aaron Jones, though, I think was the one that cost you the game because he's been averaging 12 points. He put up 3. Did he get hurt or something during the game?
His stupid knee betrayed me. He sprained his MCL.
Motherfucker, Aaron Jones. God damn it. God damn it. What have you done to a loyal Green Bay Packers fan up on the top of that? You son of a bitch. So anyways, he got him 3 points. That certainly held you back. Rams D, though, they made up for it in spades, though. They are the #1 defense this year. 23 points on average. They put up 28. And then Graham Gano got you 10 points. Good week, Noel. Tough loss. Always a tough loss when you put up that many points and you lose. But, you're still not out yet. Not counting out yet. So let's go on to the next game, Charlie versus Nick.
All right. So I was not aware that this happened. As I said, I hadn't looked at the scores. Whoa. So great win by Nick here, as you said, Mike. Scored a lot of points and unfortunate shit for Charlie. So let's dive into it. Matt Stafford, who has been kind of up or down, and I'm sure Nick, if he had his choice, would have rather started the red-hot Carson Wentz, but he was on a bye week, so he couldn't. So Stafford, 29.4 points. Good game. Almost 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Good game. Kenyon Drake, again, such a bold, just fantastic start, paying off. He only ran the ball 7 times, but he got 82 yards and a touchdown. That's good pickup. Along with Juju Smith-Schuster, which is, as I said last week, such a fun name to say. 22 points. 16 points from Austin Hooper. Another bold start that paid off. Des Bryant, as Mike knows all too well, just has been the same player. 7 points. Might be a rough go for almost all the Cowboys offensive players with Elliott now out, at least for the rest of the fantasy season. Robbie Anderson, who neither one of us really knew who he was. 18 points. Another bold start that paid off. Josh Lambo is a kicker, whatever. Patriots defense, surprisingly and saddeningly, 22 points against our beloved Broncos. So that is just a solid, convincing win, 150.4 points, and would have beat just about anybody, especially when Charlie just had just a rough go of it. Tyrod Taylor, who was benched partway into the game, had an abysmal 56-yard passing, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 3 runs for 27 yards. So an awesomely bad 6.8 points. LaShawn McCoy, that New Orleans Saints defense is somehow for real after being a joke the past few seasons. 13 points for LaShawn McCoy. Jordan Nelson, no surprise, 5 points. Tyler Kroft, no surprise really either, 1 point. Frank Gore, kind of back to earth after he's been kind of consistently getting around 20 points, 11. James White, 11's probably around his average. Prater, who's been really more reliable for the Lions, probably the fact they were playing the vaunted Cleveland defense probably didn't help them there. And then I thought this would probably be a good start because the Rams offense, you wouldn't think is great. They're okay, but the Texans defense is pretty good. But all Charlie got out of them was 2.5 points. So 59.3 points is you're not going to beat anybody. I would imagine that, was it Bronco that one season who forgot to start or changed out a bunch of players who were who were injured, so they didn't even play. This is when we had the scoring system where you lost points if your players lost, if their teams lost. So I think even he scored more than Charlie scored this week. So Charlie, I think, will be better off now that he's got some players coming off of bye weeks. But my God, that's some bad stuff. Sorry, Charlie, but I think you've got some corrections you can make to keep things going, but tough loss. And wait, you're still keeping 2 kickers? Damn it, Charlie. But good win for Nick and Charlie. Good luck going forward.
Also, without looking it up, I still believe Bronco holds the record for lowest points in a game, which I believe was that week you just referenced at something like 33 points.
It was rough.
It was bad. I have it saved on my computer. I'm talking. We're recording this on my laptop now, so I can certainly look that up later just to confirm. But it was somewhere in the 30 range. It was either 33 or 34 points, which just no. That's what? No. Okay. Anyways, I could just go on making stupid comments like that. But let's go on to the next game. Noel, why don't you tackle the Buffaloes at Chug? And
so this was.
I'll tackle the last one.
I was going to say, this was just a week of either some kind of higher scoring affairs, medium scoring affairs, or this one was relatively low, not super low, but anytime you have a team that doesn't break double digits and break triple digits and one that barely does, that's usually kind of low for how our league works. But I'm pretty sure that Molly will certainly take this win to keep her more so in playoff contention. And also to, I believe, for the second time this year, win the Badonkadonk Bowl. Well, sorry, at least during the second Badonkadonk Bowl this year, she took home the victory with 103.1 points to Vanessa's 79.5. And here it's really on the strength of Alvin Kamara, who I actually watched a thing on YouTube today that apparently Nick Saban wanted Kamara so badly that Kamara received 105 letters from Saban on the same day, none of which were duplicates.
Wow.
So not saying that Saban wrote all of them, but that's impressive, especially when you consider the fact that Kamara didn't even go to Alabama and ended up going to Tennessee. So that didn't work out so well. But certainly that was that he certainly carried her this week. Drew Brees, I read today that someone kind of put on a really good comparison where you always expect Drew Brees to throw for like 5,000 yards on like 80 billion attempts and stuff like that. But they're kind of doing what Shanahan did with Elway late in his career, where good defense and a very good running game. And Drew Brees doesn't have to do much. So he actually didn't get a touchdown through the air at all, but he got one on the ground. So 17.6 points, not bad at all. Will Fuller, hit or miss, and I might not even play next week. He got 3 points. Cameron Brate, who has kind of been the same way, and that was a weird win that Tampa Bay got 15-10, which was like a high-scoring baseball game. Julio Jones, he's still slowed by injury, so only 11 points for him. Travis Benjamin, Steven Gostkowski, just rolling 11, 16.5 points to the Chargers defense, pretty good. And then Vanessa's game, 23 points from Andy Dalton is nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, he's oftentimes not good at all. Rawls for Seattle is who the hell knows who to start in the Seattle backfield anymore. Devontae Parker just kind of the same way with Julio Jones. He's always not the same player, but is still slowed by injury. Kyle Rudolph, down week, 8 points. Charles Clay, who I think may have let the game hurt again, 3 points. Deshaun Jackson, 14, not bad considering this season, but you'd like a lot more than that. And then Hauschka actually ended up, I think, hurting his hip, only 4 points. Broncos defense, probably the most disappointing for everyone involved here, 7.5. So disappointing loss for Vanessa. Good win for Molly. And good luck to the both of you going forward because you're both still in playoff contention.
Ding. Ding. That's right. I don't know if that came through, but my computer just like did an update. It's like, hey, surprise, this is done. Ding. Really loud. Anyways. Let's go on to the final game of the week here. That totally just distracted me, threw me off my game. All right, this is Kenfield and Ben. They had a shootout here. Turned out to be a pretty darn close game because teams did very well. Kenfield, as we alluded to earlier, won at 7-3. Heading Ben another loss. He's now 4-6. Both of them had great weeks. Let's go position by position. Kenfield, Tom Brady, 30 points to Kirk Cousins, 36.2. I would have thought that'd be reversed, but, sometimes Kurt does it very well. Kirk? No, Kurt. Clank. Kronk. Jack Cousins. Snort. Tor. So, and then we have the running backs, Le'Veon Bell, Jonathan Stewart. Again, reversed. Jonathan Stewart got 26 points. I thought Bell would have got that, but he got 24. Not just not that different, but even still, you always expect Le'Veon Bell to outscore Jonathan Stewart. But Jonathan Stewart just had a really, really strong week. Best week of the season so far for him. Demaryius Thomas for Kenfield, 15 to Marvin Jones's 3. If there's anything that you can point out as to what likely led to Ben's loss, there it is. Jason Witten, 12 for Kenfield. Austin Safarian-Jenkins, 12 for Ben. Neutral as Switzerland. Antonio Brown for 7 and Carlos Hyde, 21. Again, another thing where this is like topsy-turvy. I thought that Freaky Friday, you would expect Carlos Hyde to underperform Antonio Brown. I would never expect to see Antonio Brown to get kicker-like points. In fact, he only did this once before Week 4 against Baltimore when he scored 8. So this is definitely uncharacteristic of him. In fact, as we're recording this, he currently has 32 points. So against Tennessee, which is much more like Antonio Brown than 7. Flex number 2, Sterling Shepard for Kenfield, 27. Amir Abdullah, 17. That's kind of what you can expect. Both these guys are second-tier folks. You really can expect them to put up points, but you really can't depend on them too much. So the fact that Sterling Shepard put up 27 points, real big boon for Kenfield there. Seahawks D, 20. Steelers, 14. Looking at that, I think, again, you could have switched that because Arizona, I think, has a more high-powered offense than Indianapolis does. Jacoby Brissett has been outperforming my expectations, at least in Indianapolis, but I wouldn't think that Arizona would I don't know. I think they just have better offense. So I thought the Steelers might be able to outperform the Seahawks, but they didn't. Vinatieri, 6. Robbie Gould, 8. And kickers. There you go. So good win this week, Kenfield. 143, 135. That's a great, solid win. You are in. With this win, you are in. Win. Go, Kenfield. So way to go with that one. That is the wrap-up of the review. Now let's hop into the preview. Oh, wait. Kurt? Preview. Let's talk about the preview. Let's talk about the preview before we do that. Last of the bye weeks, folks. Week 11 is last of the bye weeks. We have the Carolina Panthers, Jacoby Brissett, and the rest of the Indianapolis Colts, the New York Jets, everybody's starting a Jet, which was actually me, and then the San Francisco 49ers. Now let's hop into the preview. Let's look at who's playing so far into Week 11. So actually, it's kind of a fun little start to this week. The Titans and the Steelers. I'll say Texans.
Stellars.
The Stellars are having a pretty good week, a pretty good start to the game, and it's got some implications already. So the first game of the week is the Spartans versus the Legend of Lincoln, Courtney's team. Right now, Courtney is projected to win 130.3 to 127.1. She's gotten off to a great start. Ryan Suckup, Tennessee's kicker, only has a whopping 2 pats made, point after touchdown. And so she's got 2 points from him, which is pretty low considering that he's been averaging closer to 11 points, 10.9. So this is not a good way for her to start the week here. But let's look at everything else. Starting quarterbacks, Matt Ryan for the Spartans and Alex Smith for Courtney. As Noel was saying, this has not been Matt Ryan's year. He's been doing okay. He's outside of the top 12, so he's not really worthy of starting at the quarterback position, but there might not be anybody available on the waivers right now. And sometimes you just want to start Matt Ryan because his name is Matt Ryan, and it's 2 first names as a whole name, and that's just cool. So looking at that, and actually let's look at more important things, the defensive matchup. Alex Smith is going against the worst in the league New York Giants defense against the quarterback. You're 32 out of 32. So I would expect Alex Smith to do just fine. Now, he's a game manager. He's not a Tom Brady type or Drew Brees, as Noel was saying, they'll just walk all over you and blow you up. But he is good enough to put up some decent points. He's been averaging 31. So the fact he's going against the Giants, I have to give my money to Alex Smith. Next, we have Adrian Peterson and Marshawn Lynch. This is the battle of yesteryear. If this was 2012, boy, this would be a high-scoring game. But it's not. Adrian Peterson's been scoring 11 points on average. Marshawn, 10. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Now, I think that Marshawn Lynch has the opportunity to outscore Peterson this year because he's running against a much easier, much more porous New England run defense versus Adrian Peterson's going against Houston's #1 ranked against the run defense. So I got to give my money to Marshawn. Plus, he was in Call of Duty and Call of Duty commercials, so that's cool. And that gets some extra points. Going to the wide receiver position, we have DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs for Brandon and Courtney, respectively. I got to give my money. Before I even look at this, I'm giving my money to DeAndre Hopkins. Not just because he's the #1 wide receiver so far this year, but he just looks like DeAndre Hopkins should look. He looks a heck of a lot better than he has in the past. Even with a douchebag like Tom Savage throwing to him, I think DeAndre Hopkins has the ability to cook the Arizona defense here. They're not a very good defense against the wide receiver position anyways. 27 versus Stephon Diggs, who's going against a pretty stout, I will say, as an adjective to describe them, Los Angeles Rams pass defense. So I got to put my money with DeAndre Hopkins there. In the tight end position, assuming Jimmy Graham plays, he is currently limited as of today, Thursday, in practice with a knee injury. Which, by the way, quick little side note, Noel. Jimmy Graham, instead of driving to the Seahawks practice facility, flies a seaplane there. So he drives to wherever his seaplane is parked, I guess the seaplane port, like in DuckTales.
I wouldn't be surprised if he actually just lives either like on Lake Washington, because that's where like a lot of the rich people live out here, or if he lives like on Lake Union on like the other side, which is also where rich people live, where he just walk out to the dock and hop on his seaplane.
You know, that's just so fucking cool. That is just so cool. Yeah, I know. I saw that on, I think it was the NFL Network. I saw that it's because it's a heck of a lot faster. It's like 8 minutes flight time versus like 45 minutes driving. So, and as Noel can attest to, traffic in Seattle is fucking atrocious, from what Noel tells me. And Noel, tell the good people when it gets worse.
When it rains is the worst, followed by when it's sunny.
So the two weather conditions that exist in Seattle are the two times that is the worst time to drive in Seattle. So in other words, traffic sucks in Seattle. So I don't blame him, especially if you had the means and the skill and the talent to fly an airplane to your practice. How the fuck wouldn't you? Especially as a seaplane. I mean, that's just extra cool. You're like Launchpad McQuack or the bear from Tailspin. I think they borrowed Baloo from the Jungle Book, and I actually think the character is Baloo in Tailspin. They just put clothes on him, and he's a pilot. So, at any rate,
wear a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, you're a pilot now. Congratulations. And also take this kid up with you and have him hang out the back of your aircraft by a rope. Let's do that. That's safe. Remember that? He would
Tailspin.
Yeah, he would surf in the sky with like a little like disc that he'd whip out.
I do remember that.
Predator, and then like surf the clouds, and it's like he's water skiing in the air, which, good lord, I mean, as a parent now, as a kid, I was like, that's so cool. As a parent, I'm like, why the fuck would you allow that to happen? That's such bad bear parenting. So at any rate, let's hello, back to the subject at hand here. Gronkowski, that's what I was going with that. Rob Gronkowski, that's my pick. Jerick McKinnon and Leonard Fournette in the flex spot one, I think. Assuming that he plays, he was a practice on a limited basis today. He has an injured ankle. I think that Leonard Fournette is clearly the more talented runner. Jerick McKinnon's good. Don't get me wrong. He's very good this year. But I like Leonard Fournette a whole lot more. Now, the thing that's holding him back is he's going against a pretty good Cleveland, run defense at number 6 versus the 28th defense, the Rams. While the Rams are very good at the pass defense, they are very bad at the run defense. So it's a toss-up. That's a toss-up. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. I picked Jerick McKinnon. Mohamed Sanu versus Amari Cooper. Here are two guys that I could give a fuck about. They're not productive. There are better players out there, and I just don't really like either of them. There's nothing special about these guys. So in this case, I choose neither because I just don't like them. The Jags versus the Vikings defense. Jags have been surprisingly good this year, but as we talked about, whoever is playing the Cleveland Browns is who you start, especially since The Vikings are going against the number 1 ranked Los Angeles Rams offense. That's just not going to end well for them. So you got to go with the Jags there. Greg the Leg versus Ryan Suckup. Greg the Leg is, dude, he's 14.4 points. That is tight end territory. That is actually wide receiver territory for 2017. So you got to give it to Greg the Leg here. All said and done, looking at Courtney's team and what she's able to put up week after week and what I think can happen with Alex Smith, I have to give it to her. I think that she has more upside potential this week. I think Brandon will score just fine. I think he'll probably put up 110, 120, maybe 130, but I still think Courtney will go home with the win. So let's move on to the next game. Noel, take it away.
All right. So, Mike, you get to play the Parker, whatever the hell that is. Did
it get more
picture?
It looks like it's 4K now. Like it looks to be it's a higher resolution, rapey image of what it was.
It does. Like whatever those,
making that up.
There's like gray lines behind him. Like I don't know if it's supposed to like mean like it's supposed to show motion or one, but it makes it more sinister. And yeah, I think it does have higher resolution because you kind of see the sneer on his face more, where it's both evil and it shows the pleasure he's taking in whatever the fuck it is that he is doing. So Mike, originally you were projected to win by a lot more than you currently are because, dear Lord, Chris Boswell, the kicker that Larson is starting right now, has 14 points so far in this game. That's not typical of kickers not named Greg the Leg. And from there, there's lots of like on your team. Oh, Mike, you did pick up Stafford. I thought of picking him up. I was like, I don't know if I want him because, as you'll see later, I was trying to screw with Ben. Sorry, Ben. So Stafford against Goff. I actually like, even though Goff is, believe it or not, after last season under the incomparable 7-9 Jeff Fisher man, looked like he may have been a bust. Now looks like he's possible MVP, but he is going against that tough Minnesota defense, and Stafford's going against the Chicago Bears defense, which is underrated, but still, I mean, come on. And then Muscle Hamster against Jordan Howard. Muscle Hamster just hasn't been the same in a few years. So Jordan Howard, even with sort of down week last week. Michael Thomas versus Jarvis Landry. Right off just looking at it, because his defense is so bad, you have to like Jarvis Landry. But then again, do you prefer Jay Cutler or do you prefer Drew Brees? So I think that's a toss-up right there. Sorry, dog's doing weird stuff. And then Evan Ingram versus Zach Ertz. Typically, I think just because it's been a hot hand, you'd go with Evan Ingram. But Zach Ertz can get hot as well, but has not been hot in recent weeks. Evan Ingram, I think, gets the advantage there. Adam Thielen go against the tough Rams pass defense versus Melvin Gordon. You go against the not so good Buffalo defense, even though they should be. They're not. I like Melvin Gordon there, but Adam Thielen, as Courtney saw, and Courtney knows, it can be Stephon Diggs one week, and then Adam Thielen's. So it just depends on who gets more of the nod. Chris Thompson versus Deion Lewis. I like Chris Thompson there. Bengals defense against the Lions defense for you, Mike. This one could actually be pretty close because Bengals defense going against our beloved Broncos, who are led by Brock Osweiler again, versus the Lions defense going against Chicago's offense, which just they can't get anything going in passing. So it's pretty easy to lead to have your defense, especially one that can get some turnovers like the Lions, to do pretty well against them. But I think there's some other things to play here just in case Larson decides to tweak with his roster a bit. Devontae Freeman is listed as doubtful with a concussion. Golden Tate, I mean, that could be a good start against Chicago. Also, it would, not to give him any ideas, but it might kind of mess with you a bit, Mike, because you're your quarterback. Alfred Morris, I think he'll probably keep on the bench. But Jamal Williams with Aaron Jones out is the lead back for Green Bay now, who, if last week is any sort of indicator for what they're doing, they're going to run the ball because they don't think Brett Hundley is any good. So he might make some adjustments here, Mike, that could make some noise. But even with Chris Boswell having a great game, I think this is your game to lose. And Larson and I will continue to battle it out for least supremacy. What? Huh? Opposite of supremacy?
Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland Brownsness.
Did you see that his kicker has 14 points already?
I did actually.
I'm sorry. I was typing up the notes, not the notes. What do you call it? The story part of the review, the homepage. That's what I was going for there. So I'm sorry if I missed that part. I just thought that was kind of silly because his
and the Steelers are still driving, so you know.
All right, let's hop into the next one. Josh versus Charlie. Will Josh go 11-0? Yeah,
yes.
Of course he will. Of course he will. Look at this game. But why? I mean, yes, the answer is yes. Well, let's find out why that's the case. First off, he's projected to get 144 to Charlie's 118.8. And if you look at what they've been putting up on average, Josh has been scoring 140.8 per week to Charlie's 108.8. So we're looking at a fairly wide spread there of 32 points per week difference. So let's go here. Why Charlie might have a chance, I'll get into in a second. But let's go position by position again. Dak Prescott versus Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is still in the protocol for as far as I know. He's yet to clear him as of today, Thursday. So I don't know if he's even going to play. But when you're looking at who they're playing, Phillip is going against the 6th-ranked Buffalo defense, whereas Dak's going against Philly's 21st-ranked defense. And the fact that Philly has a great offense means that they're likely going to have to throw the ball. So got to give it to Dak. There's 1 point in Josh's column. Mark Ingram versus LaShawn McCoy. I love LaShawn McCoy. I really do. And he's going against the worst Chargers defense against the run this week. So he certainly could put up a 30-plus point week. But Mark Ingram has been a stud so far. But not more
so. It should be pointed out that Tyrod Taylor has been benched for some guy named Nathan Peterman. Or yes, that's right, Jay Peterman. So that could be fun. A 5th-round rookie.
5th-round rookie. Well, okay. Well, best of luck to you there, guy, whoever you are. I think Ingram's got this one as much as I love LaShawn McCoy. I like Mark Ingram more. AJ Green versus Jordy Nelson had Packers quarterback man with beard, Aaron Rodgers, that's his name. Not hurt. I think he would have been my pick here because I think that he's got more talent. He's more accessible in the sense that he gets open more quickly and is typically open more often. Where AJ Green has Jordy Nelson licked is his catch radius is ridiculous. You put the ball within like a 50-mile radius and he's got the height and the athletic ability to catch it. So I would otherwise say Jordy Nelson, but for this week, especially since he's going against a very tough Baltimore pass defense, they're number 1 against the pass compared to AJ Green, which they're still going against a really good Denver pass defense at number 4. But I think AJ Green is better because he's got the Red Rocket throwing to him versus that guy in Green Bay. Noel, you know his name?
Brett Hundley.
That's it. Brett Hundley, who sounds a little bit more like a British aristocrat getting ready for a Fox hunt than a Green Bay Packers quarterback. But I digress.
Indeed.
Indeed, good sir. Intuitively. Let's look at Eric Ebron versus Jared Cook. Jared Cook is going against a pretty bad New England defense, and Eric Ebron's going against a pretty good Chicago defense. So I'm actually going to put my money on Jared Cook. Whee! That's my chalk on the board for a point in Charlie's column. Todd Gurley versus Jeremy Maclin. Is that even a debate? Clearly, I'm going Jeremy Maclin. No, I mean Todd Gurley for that one. Tevin Coleman versus James White. That's a little tricky here. Very tricky here. Here's where it becomes a little complicated. Tevin Coleman's been outscoring him on average, but is facing a very tough defense, whereas James White's been underperforming relative to Tevin Coleman, but is facing a very light Oakland defense. So that's tough. I'm actually going to cast my vote for James White. Cardinals D against Houston versus the Texans against the Cardinals. Well, that's interesting. So each one of their defenses is playing the other person's offense. Fun. Given the fact that, and you know what, this is really interesting. So
this is also sorry. Before do you know who's starting for the Cardinals at quarterback this week?
Is it not Drew Stanton?
It is not Drew Stanton.
Oh my God! Is it Blaine Gabbert?
It is Blaine Gabbert.
No. Why? Why are they doing that? Do they want?
Because it's Blaine.
Oh God. Oh my God. Okay, well, that'll be interesting. So actually then with that information in the book, I have to give my points to Charlie because if Arizona's got Blaine Gabbert throwing the ball, for fuck's sake.
Gabbert versus Tom Savage. What a time to be alive.
It's like that Simpsons episode. They're like, who is the greatest team in the world? We'll find out in the World Cup. Is it Mexico or Portugal? Yeah, so that's pretty much what this is about, and that'll be fun. Okay, and then Kai Forbath and Matt Prater for their kickers for Josh and Charlie, respectively. I have to give it to Josh. I mean, and this is not homerism. This is not favoritism. This is just analyzing these teams. If I had to pick one of these two, they say you can have either one of these lineups to perform for you this week to go play anyone else. I would obviously pick Josh's. So I think Josh is my pick of the week. I think he's going to win and go 11-0. So we are already in rare territory here. So we might be even more rich, more rare territory. So let's go on to the next game, Noel, Nick versus Vanny.
All right. So in more battles between domesticated couples here. We've got what should be a nice close game here. Although so far, I think Nick's probably disappointed that, as the aforementioned great named Juju Smith-Schuster only has 8 points so far with the start of the fourth quarter taking place in Pittsburgh right now. But from there, let's get to the matchup. Carson Wentz against Dallas versus Derek Carr against New England. And usually I think I'm going to go with Carson Wentz just because he's so hot right now. But Dallas's defense, especially against the pass, isn't terrible. They're missing Sean Lee against the run, but Carson Wentz has weapons, and he's just been hot. But Derek Carr can get it done, and New England's defense they're lacking a lot of talent, especially a pass rush. But then again, it's what you say. Oh, that's right, Bill Belichick. So you never know. I'm going to go ahead and just give the nod to Carson Wentz, but I like this one as a close matchup there. Kenyon Drake going against that abysmal Tampa Bay defense versus Kareem Hunt against another abysmal defense in the New York Giants. I think you have to go with Kareem Hunt, even though he's kind of had a couple down weeks so far, but off a bye week and against the New York Giants, Kareem Hunt is. And then Tyreek Hill versus that, again, New York Giants, terrible defense. Michael Crabtree against New England. This is tough because Crabtree has been the better Raiders receiver so far against Cooper, but Tyreek Hill gets his touches not just in the passing game, but they oftentimes use him as a runner, and he returns punts and kicks. So I like Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce versus Kyle Rudolph. I don't think I have to mention the matchups. You go with Kelce. Juju Smith-Schuster, still 8 points, even though the Steelers just scored a passing touchdown, obviously, to somebody else. Jay Ajayi, again, against Dallas's defense, which, as I said, without Sean Lee, is just not the same. And he didn't do much in his debut, but he's had a bye week to learn the offense more. But he did have that big run still, so I like Jay Ajayi there. Latavius Murray against Deshaun Jackson. This one I think is a toss-up because you never know, as I said, what's going to happen in the Minnesota backfield. Deshaun Jackson can fill it up, but hasn't so far this season. Ravens defense going up against my Green Bay Packers. I like that. Broncos defense going against Cincinnati. That one might be rough just because the Broncos defense is just going to be out in the field too long. So I actually like Ravens defense going against Brett Hundley-led Packers. And then kickers. So while I think right now it does have Molly. Actually, no. Sorry. I like Molly in this matchup. Not Molly. Vanessa. I'm having problems now. I like Vanessa in this matchup but I think it's going to be close, but not quite as close as the projection says, unless Juju Smith-Schuster can get a touchdown grab this game. I think this one is Vanessa's to lose and keep her in the playoff hunt for yet another week. And then, anything to add to that, Mike?
Not at all. I just wanted to add that I added the Simpsons Portugal versus Mexico video to the homepage. You're welcome.
All right. And then on to another game with, it's a playoff implication, but not playoff implications for Kenfield because he's in. Again, congratulations, Kenfield. And so far, even though this game doesn't look really matters to him as far as his playoff position, it's his game to lose. Antonio Brown has 34 points on the night, which so far has Kenfield a projected total of 145.8 points to Molly's 106.6, who, unfortunately, Molly only has 6 points from DeMarco Murray right now. And with the score, I would imagine he won't get too many more touches as far as running the ball, but who knows? So let's break down position by position. Drew Brees going up against Washington's defense versus Tom Brady going against Oakland's defense. Drew Brees, they're not asking him to do as much, so I don't think he's going to do as much. I like Tom Brady here. Alvin Kamara going against that same Washington defense versus Alex Collins going up against a Green Bay defense, which can be good against the run, but can also be shitty against the run. I think you have to give it to Alvin Kamara because in our league, anytime a guy gets that amount of touches and also catches the ball, that's a quality start. Travis Benjamin against Demaryius Thomas. I think you got to give the nod to Demaryius Thomas there. Cameron Brate going against Jason Witten. I don't think we're going to go with Jason Witten because Cameron Brate and that Tampa Bay offense, the whole Tampa Bay team is just sort of off. So unless they have some sort of crazy bounce back game. Oh, and I guess I should look. I don't know if it's Fitzy throwing to Cameron Brate again this week or if it's Jameis Winston. But I think especially if it's Fitzpatrick, you, again, just ugh. And then, as I said, DeMarco Murray, 6 points. Antonio Brown, 34. That one's already decided. Devontae Adams, catching passes from Brent Hundley. Against Sterling Shepard. Believe it or not, I actually like Devontae Adams because he will get touches as opposed to Sterling Shepard, who is big play dependent, and it usually is at his best when Odell Beckham Jr. is playing, and obviously he's out for the season. Then this is, I think, in case it wasn't decided beforehand, I think this is a huge one here. So Molly's got Chargers defense going against Buffalo's offense. Chargers defense is all right. Buffalo's offense is bad. But Kenfield's got the Chiefs defense going against Eli Manning and the 1-8 New York Giants, who basically can't really move the ball and score basically garbage time touchdowns. And Eli Manning has no time to his protection is awful. The Chiefs got the passer like nobody else. So I think that's pretty obvious. And to kickers, to her credit, because it's been this way all season, Gronkowski, even though not the top guy, always gives Molly a good showing. So I think she's got the edge there. But between Tom Brady, Demaryius Thomas, Jason Witten a little bit, but mostly Antonio Brown, Chiefs defense, I think Kenfield's going to be tough to beat this week. So Kenfield's going to keep it rolling, even without Ezekiel Elliott. I can't talk.
Elliott. Just like ET says. That's right. And I looked it up, Noel, while you were discussing the game. It is going to be Ryan Fitzmagic throwing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this weekend.
He went to Harvard.
Did he go to Harvard? Really?
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. I haven't even heard that once today. That's fantastic. All right. Let's go on to the game between Ben and you, Noel. We are looking at a potential victory for you right off the bat here. You're projected to get 133.5 to Ben's paltry 117. I almost said 117. That would mean you had 1,000 points, which would clearly win the entire season. So let's look at this. You're off to a great start because looking at the quarterbacks, he's got Kirk Cousins, I actually said it right this time. Versus you got Ben Roethlisberger, and I almost, when I was looking at the waiver wires this week, I was like, should I go with Big Ben? No, I'll pass over Big Ben. Do you know who I picked up instead, Noel, on waivers this week besides Matt Stafford?
Not Matt
Jacksonville.
Stafford.
That's right. I picked up not Matt
Bortles?
Stafford. I picked up. I know. I'm sorry. I apologize for my lack of judgment. I picked up Blake Bortles because, like, I need a quarterback. Stat. I have the superstar Josh McCown. I need another superstar, but not nearly as good. I know. Blake Bortles. That'll work.
Well, 2 years ago, I remember I called him a garbage time Jesus because he was putting up terrific points for Molly, I believe, because they were just constantly playing from behind. So yeah, it wouldn't matter that he threw 2 interceptions. He got 300 some odd yards. Now this season they're being, responsible and not letting him get them in a hole and then get garbage time points. So he's got the talent. It's just between his ears, that old saying.
It's the old Jim Irsay wisdom.
But for different reasons.
That's so. Anyways, I when I saw Stafford became available, I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm not starting Blake Bortles unless I really have to. Which, again, to your point, he's not that bad. I just don't have any conviction in him. Versus Matt Stafford, I'm sure Matt Stafford. He's playing a pretty tough Chicago defense this week. I'm sure he'll throw a pick, maybe 2, or maybe get a fumble here because his offensive line is good, but they do allow him to get sacked. I'm not expecting anything glorious from him, but if we're playing pickup football in a park, they say you can have your team captain number 1 and your quarterback choices are Matt Stafford or Blake Bortles. Who are you going to pick? It's like, duh. Blake, go walking. Blake Bortles. I was thinking Blaine Gabbert. Blake Bortles and Blaine Gabbert. What? I would pick Matt Stafford is my point. All right, let's look at these quarterbacks. So Kurt is going to be just fine, I'm sure. He's been doing very well. He's the 8th ranked quarterback so far this season, 26 points, going against a pretty good New Orleans defense here against the quarterback. Right now, though, Ben Roethlisberger, Big Ben's got 31.8 points, which is way above his average of 19.6. And they just started the 4th quarter, so it's not out of their own possibilities. He finishes in the mid, potentially high 30s, possibly. I mean, they're up 30-17 at this point. It could be in the 40s, but very likely in the mid-30s for you this week. Le'Veon Bell, surprisingly for Ben, is playing right now 16 points. Very un-Le'Veon-ish of him. He's been putting up 29 on average, so this is not a great week for him. But now that they're up, that might certainly – the gap between your scores might change, even though Ben Roethlisberger just got another point. Because now that they're up, you'd expect them to run the ball more. Just football 101. So Bell versus Lamar Miller, got to give it to Le'Veon Bell. I mean, why wouldn't you? Marvin Jones versus Doug Baldwin. Marvin Jones has been kind of a sleeper this year. 18th best wide receiver, 13 points per week, going against a pretty good, kind of middle-of-the-road Chicago defense against. They are great against the quarterback, middle-of-the-road against wide receivers, 14th ranked versus Doug Baldwin going against the number 5 ranked Atlanta defense here. I like Doug Baldwin more. I really think he's an underrated player in general, not just in fantasy, but in general. So I think he'll do just fine. Ben just picked up, it looks like, Julius Thomas to play the tight end position. So let's analyze. He picked him up yesterday, 4:31 a.m. Eastern time, which means that might sound weird. It's more weird that he picked him up then no, never mind. That's when the waivers process. I was like thinking,
that's the waivers.
Wake in the middle of the morning, like, which tight end should I have? Fuck sleep. I'm going to pick a tight end.
I must have Julius Thomas.
I must have him. His name is Julius, like the orange delicious drink I used to get at South Bend Mall. So the Julius Thomas, obviously, is a pretty good pick there. I think he'll do just fine. He's gotten decent points. I mean, I think the problem with Julius Thomas is not Julius Thomas because he's a physical specimen. He's big and can run routes. It's the quarterback. Have you seen any games with Jay Cutler this year with Miami, Noel? I mean, God bless you if you haven't. It's really not that fun to watch, but have you seen any of them?
I haven't watched any of them, no.
Jay Cutler, that is phoning it in like crazy. Like, you can tell he signed the contract just to make money. Like, he seems so disinterested in being there, and it's not only evident in the way that he's playing, but it's evident in the stat line for Miami. I think they were averaging like 180 yards on passing a game, something like that. It's just sad. So even with him starting a tight end here, I don't think it's going to hold a stick to Delaney Walker's. I mean, Delaney Walker's not blowing it out of the water here, 10 points, but it's certainly not bad. Now, here we go. Good old Big Ben here just looks like he threw another touchdown. He's now at
That was a great catch by Brown.
What's that?
That was a great catch by Brown. He one-handed off of his helmet.
He is so good. Like, when you look at him, you don't see like Megatron size, or you don't see.
He didn't even run that like the fastest 40. I think he ran like a 4.5, like 4.45 or a 4.5, which is
he doesn't have that kind of kill speed like Devin Hester or even Eddie Royal was really fast, but he's just a complete package. Like, there's something about Antonio Brown that is truly special, and it's not one thing in particular. Like, you can say Julio Jones or AJ Green are good because they're so tall that if you get the ball anywhere near them, they're taller than most cornerbacks and can catch the ball. Antonio Brown is not. And so he just has to be better than his competition. And quite frankly, I think he is. Not that I'm done going off on Antonio here, but I think that's really he's special. He's really special. I think he's fantastic. So, Noel, you're up even more now. You're projected at 139 to Ben's 118. Now you toss in Julius Thomas. Julius Thomas is projected to get 8.4 points. So toss that on top. Ben's actual projected total is going to be in the 120s. So it's not like it's going to be they're projecting a monster blowout here. But Ben Roethlisberger already has you out to a great start. As of right now, 12-12 left in the fourth. Noel is winning 48.2 to Ben's 35. Let's go on to the next position, flex 1, Mike Evans versus Larry Fitzgerald. As much as I love Larry Fitzgerald, the human being, it's going to make it sound like I picked Mike Evans. I'm not. I'm actually going to pick Fitzgerald. I really like him. He's a good man, and he's a good player. He's going up against a worse defense here. Mike Evans was a punk last week, too. Just total thugness. Take that as you will. And just not smart playing. He just did not look good, and he's not been playing well. He's 23rd ranked wide receiver so far this year, and Fitzgerald is number 5. So, especially since he's going against Houston's second worst pass defense, got to pick Fitzgerald there. So I did a little thing about making it. I threw a curveball. You thought maybe I was going to go with Mike Evans, but no. Larry Fitzgerald is my man. Amir Abdullah versus Joe Mixon. It's the battle of the obscure running backs. Let's see here. I think that Joe Mixon will do just fine for you, Noel, and you're kind of stuck with him because you're on somewhat of a bye-week bonanza with Newton, Funchess, and Jack Doyle out. Your only other option there is Tyler Lockett. He's going against a number 5 ranked Atlanta defense versus Joe Mixon's running against the Denver's 11th ranked run defense. So Amir Abdullah, he's been averaging a little bit more, and he's going against a worst defense. Worst defense. Excuse me. Derp. I have to go with Amir Abdullah there. Steelers have 18 points. That's much better than their projection of 10. And you've got the Rams defense. They're projected to get 10. So I think that Minnesota's offense has been pretty good this year. And while 18 for a defense is not that hot, it's not anything spectacular, but it's pretty good. I'd be happy with 18 points for my defense. I have to think that the Steelers are going to outperform the Rams this week. Even though the Rams are number 1 and they have been averaging 23 points, they are they are prone to bouts of just what the fuckness. Like in week 2, Washington against Kirk, they got 8.5 points. San Francisco against a powerhouse Brian Hoyer, 13 points. Dallas is 12, which is a little bit more understandable because they had Dak and Ezekiel there at the time. So they are prone to bouts of underperformance, and my projection is this week will be one of them. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I actually think Bridgewater is going to be playing for Minnesota this week. Is he not? Or am I making that up?
I thought they were basically planning on sticking with Keenum for now because he's been playing fairly lights out.
Okay, very good. Well, then, if that's the case, I mean, Keenum has been playing pretty lights out, so that, I guess, perhaps bolsters my argument, perhaps not. But I do think that the Steelers will outperform the Rams this week. And then Justin Tucker and Harrison Butlicker. Have you always
Butlicker?
Did you pick him up?
I just picked him up this week because Graham Gano, who I don't really care about, was on a bye week. So
I was gonna say, I swear to God, I saw Butlicker on other teams. So there you go.
I think maybe Nick had him.
I will click on his transactions and I will find out. Yes, you're absolutely right. Nick dropped him on November 8th, and you snagged him up today at 2:58 a.m., which would be 11:50 p.m. your time. So that's not either impossibility. Though, like, doubt you're staying up till midnight picking kickers. So I think that looking at these teams here, I would want your team, Noel, and I would pick you to win. I think that Ben Roethlisberger's got you off to a great start, and I think that will carry you for the week. I think this is going to be your week for victory. So that is the end of the preview for the week. Let's just wrap it up here. I added a quick poll, which is in the hunt. Which 5-5 or 4-6 team can and will make it to the playoffs? Your options are fivefold. 1.21 J.J. Watts, 5-second Chug, Kings in the North, HR Buffaloes, and Rednecks Delight. Go ahead and vote if you so desire. If not, that's fine too. It's a free country. So that is the end of our podcast. Noel, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
There's not, other than there's something I'd like to say, but unless there's something you want to add beforehand.
You know, I am good. I think we had a great podcast. Let's just wrap it up. If you don't mind, Noel, send us out.
Go Broncos!